Spoiler alert, the following podcast includes discussions on film that may potentially, intentionally or inadvertently, reveal plot twists, character traits, story details, up to and including endings that might otherwise be considered spoilers. Proceed at your own risk.
You're listening to Moviesucktastic.
Satan, get thee behind me! These city women are goddamn crazy. Ow, that...
It all sounds like some bad movie.
Right, Joey?
Oh, yeah. Oh, dear Lord. God damn it, man.
So, welcome to Moviesucktastic, everybody.
Yeah, whatever.
Off to a stellar start.
Don't give a shit.
Stella. Oh, stop.
Stella!
After what you made me sit through, we better be doing the show.
We're doing it. Don't worry.
Yeah. So, yeah, welcome to Moviesucktastic. This is episode
221.
Yes.
Yeah, baby.
And
Oh, and don't worry. We're doing the show. You got nothing to worry about.
I should hope so.
Nothing to worry about. We're only like 50 minutes late. We actually would probably be wrapping up right now because
Yeah. Technically, we'd be done by now if it wasn't for Joey.
What?
So,
Hey, whoa! we can blame Microsoft for this one.
I'm sure we can.
I have not touched this computer in probably a week. The last time was probably last Thursday when we recorded last week's episode.
You sound like every third support call I get. I didn't change anything.
You know goddamn well I didn't touch anything.
Anyway.
Don't fuck with me.
This episode, we are reviewing the Ridley Scott 1985
86.
Slugfest
86.
Legend.
86.
What? IMDb says 85.
IMDb is wrong.
Okay.
It came out April of 1986 theatrically. Well, here's the thing. If you look in the bottom or the top right hand, it does say it was released April of 1986, but it was released in France in 1985. And IMDb has this weird thing where it'll take the year of wherever it was released theatrically first.
Well, that makes sense. Because then it's a 1985 film.
Yeah, technically, sure. I don't know why it actually
isn't. Actually.
Yeah, okay. I actually don't know why it came out in so many countries in 1985. It came out in France, Sweden, Finland, Netherlands, Denmark, Germany, UK, Portugal, Spain in 1985. All of those countries. Then came out in 1986 everywhere else, including the US.
Mm-hmm.
It's it didn't actually hit Denmark. Oh no, that's for a film festival. It didn't hit Turkey until 1987.
Well, Turkey always gets that stuff late.
Yeah, Japan got it late too, and you'd think that they would have been one of the first places to go.
Right. So we're talking about the 1985-86 whatever you want to call it, Legend, starring Tom Cruise,
Yes.
the chick from Ferris Bueller,
Mia Sarah.
and Frank and Furter.
So hot. So hot.
Really?
Want to touch the hiney?
Really?
No.
Okay.
No, she's pretty, but that's
guess.
that's where I'd go with it. Look at you. What are you, Donald Trump? You gonna call her Miss Housekeeping?
She's a pig, I tell you.
Yeah,
A pig.
That's another show.
Yeah. So you made me watch this. I have not watched this movie since the 80s.
I actually have seen it recently.
Well, me too now.
Well, no, I mean before I challenged it to you, it was a show. It was a movie that I like this movie. I like it a lot. I like the director's cut a lot more. But
now, director's cut. Can you tell me why, in this period of Ridley Scott's life, he couldn't make a film without making 8 goddamn fucking versions of it?
Yeah, that was kind of his thing.
Between
Blade
that's not
Runner.
a thing. That's just like being a bad filmmaker.
Here's the problem, and this
Ridley
is actually well documented that Ridley Scott, for probably the last 3 or 4 decades, has shot his movies on multiple camera angles. Multiple. At least 4 different cameras going all at one time.
Uh-huh.
That is his style of directing. And then at the end, he cuts his film to his liking. Well, movies like this, he did the same thing and has so much raw footage that's why when you look at the director's cut to theatrical comparisons, it actually shows a lot. It's like different angle used here. It's like, what?
Now, beyond
Different
that,
angle used here?
Now, and when we talk about the theatrical versus the director's cut,
Yeah.
Before the special edition director's cut came out, you would normally compare the American version to the European version.
Correct. Yes.
Those two had major differences as well. The director's cut is close to the European version, but with some changes. Because he's nothing if never consistent.
Right. And the changes are, some are subtle, some of them are more dialogue, they're edited. Like in the director's cut, some of the dialogue scenes are actually cut short. And some of the scenes are actually extended. Like they'll show an extra shot of the Dark Lord, or they'll show an extra shot of gum. Things like that.
And then there's whole scenes just in the American version.
Yeah.
Or just in and there's different dialogue too.
Yeah, it is.
Because in the director's cut or European version, Lily is a princess, but in the American version, she's just a lady.
Yeah, they do mention more than a few times in the director's cut that she's a princess, and that her father, the king, would he approve of what you're doing right now? And she's like, well, he doesn't know won't hurt him. Like they go into it, they talk about it.
Yeah, but and then we haven't talked about the film yet, but there are differences between, and I watched both versions because I'm a glutton for punishment.
Yeah, I've seen both versions.
I watched the director's cut first.
That's a good choice.
I guess, yeah, because I had a little bit more respect for the film before I went to the theatrical cut. But there's even scenes cut out or things changed that don't make, it's like, not for no reason other than, they give somebody, give some fanboy like something to jerk off to while reading Video Watchdog.
You're talking about the director's cut in comparison to the theatrical. The fanboy jerk off. You're talking about the director's cut.
Well, no. What I'm saying is, back then in the 90s, I'm talking about Video Watchdog with articles about comparisons between the European version, the American version, and the French letterbox version, which fixed some issues just by letterboxing it.
And not to jump
I don't know why it came out in France first.
Well, yeah, not to jump way too ahead. The scene with Meg, the Swamp Queen,
Right.
That whole scene is extended.
Uh-huh.
And it was cut way short for the theatrical. I mean, we're talking maybe a minute, 30 seconds to a minute, and that might be too long.
Well, here, all right. We got to go through the basic plot of the film.
Sure.
I'll let you take the lead on that.
Sure. All right. So the story is Lily, who, and like Scott said, in the theatrical, she's just Lily the lady. In the director's cut, she's a princess. Well, her suitor, Tom Cruise, who was Jack, the...
Not her suitor in the director's cut.
Well, she does say that whoever finds this ring, she would marry.
Let's clarify. In the director's cut, she's fond of him. In the American cut, she's banging him.
Yeah, this is very true. That is the big difference between the two.
Because Americans are pigs.
Well,
and this is how we appeal to pigs.
You would think that would be the polar opposite. That in the European cut, it would be like, yeah, she's totally fucking the shit out of him. And the American cut, it'd be more prudish. No. You would think.
No.
But
you'd think if we actually did what, anyway. Go ahead.
Anyway, he's a child of the forest. He knows it like the back of his hand. So he wants to show her something special, and it just happens.
I think he was abandoned in the forest and raised by frogs.
Yeah, maybe.
Explain why he keeps crouching like that.
Either that, or he's about to take a dump. Who knows?
I kept waiting.
Yeah, I bet you were. So he tells her that he wants to show her the unicorn, something he's been promising to do for a very long time. Well, what happens is he does show her the unicorns. She has this certainty that she can touch them.
She touches the unicorn, which is verboten, and it distracts the unicorn so that Frank Enfurter's goblins can...
Bix, the goblin.
Bix can poison it and cut off its horn.
Right. Thus killing the male.
Power.
Right.
Yeah.
Thus well, he's ordered to actually kill both unicorns because the Dark Lord wants night to rule, and if both unicorns die, the sun will never set or will never come up again. It'll be one last dawn and then forever in darkness.
Right.
So and his whole thing, the Dark Lord, is that go kill the unicorns. He tells Bix that, and Bix says, well, where do I go? He goes, innocence. Follow innocence, and it will lead you right to the unicorns, which is exactly what he does.
So Bix knows, hey, look up that princess chick, the one that's banging the frog boy. I know she's innocent. And honestly, in reality, he's the innocent, not her.
Bix. Oh, you mean Jack? No. Jack, yes.
Tom Cruise, Jack, yes. Yeah. Jack is the true innocent of the film.
Right.
She is not the true innocent.
Yeah, she's a total
I think that's totally, I mean, and that's something that you get more from the European version because it's for a more sophisticated audience that understands nuance.
Right.
Anyway.
So Bix actually poisons the one unicorn, the male, takes his horn, kills him, but doesn't kill the other unicorn. Of course, Big D, as he's referred to in the film later on. Which is a good scene.
It's a good scene. Yeah.
Well, I said he was referred to later in the film. I didn't say he was referred to several
I'm sorry,
times.
but I was saying once. It's not like he's...
I said he's... Okay. I'm not going to split hairs.
I was clarifying. I wasn't arguing.
Okay.
Go on.
And then she is kidnapped, brought to the Dark Lord. Jack goes in to save her and the unicorn and to make sure that the darkness doesn't rule.
Right. Now, there's the split, too. He sends them back for the unicorn. They grab her as well, and then the Lord of Darkness is like, I really like her, Dad. I mean, Dad, I really like her. Really?
Yeah.
He hasn't been this close to a girl in a long time. So, in the European version, Jack gets together with the wood nymphs and decides, hey, we have to stop this and save the world and, save the unicorn. In the American version, Jack and the wood nymphs decide, I need to save Lily.
And it comes down to which is more important. Obviously, everything but Lily.
Well, and that's the difference. That's one of them, and that's what the editing down to the American version does. And not even down, like they changed the ending, but in the American version, they turn it into a love story, where the whole saving the world thing is kind of like a side quest. And in the European cut or the director's cut, it's just the opposite. The whole thing is to save the world, and then the lateral story is this relationship between Jack and her, and them coming to trust each other beyond infatuation and more into like actual knowing one another and trusting one another.
Sure,
That's
which is
the
a
big thing
major
at the end.
plot point
Right.
at the end of the film.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't call it a. Yeah, you're right.
No,
It's set up at the beginning.
It's set up, and because she asks, like the scene that's
Right.
actually on now, she asks him if he trusts her, and it's like that's your set point, and it carries itself all the way to the end.
Yeah, I mean, less so in the American version because there's little funny things they did in the American version that just fucks everything up.
Yeah.
I mean, just as an example, when he gets the idea to do the mummy light thing to bring light to darkness
Right.
in the kitchen set, by the way, best fucking set in the whole film.
It's a great set.
Great set, underlines a point I'm going to make later, and here's a question for you. Why in the American version do we start out with the Lord of Darkness in the fucking kitchen?
Don't know.
Why is he hanging out in the kitchen? And why are his nails glowing all of a sudden? When did that start?
The director's cut that it opens up in like this deep dark forest, much better.
Well, the director's cut shows the castle. The American shot shows the castle as Bix comes upon it and looks at it like he's seen it for the first time. So what the fuck is this? American cut, I mean the European cut, director's cut, just it shows the outside of the castle. Then it does like an in shot and doesn't show him. It basically the director's cut doesn't reveal him until he comes through the mirror to Lily.
Right.
The first time she sees him is the first time we see him.
Which
in the
is-
American cut, they're like, yeah, we got to show them now, otherwise they're going to be bitching in half an hour.
Yeah,
it's
and you know
moving a chair.
what? The better cut is absolutely him being revealed like an hour in.
Oh yeah. Oh no, there's nothing about between the two of them. There's nothing that I would say is superior in the
Theatrical.
American cut, including the Tangerine Dream soundtrack. Which, I'm sorry, I like Tangerine Dream. This sounded like someone was just tuning up their accordion or synthesizer for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
It's just fucking.
It's amazing how music can completely change your viewpoint, even of a film.
Yeah, well, they know it's obviously a huge deal, and the wrong directors. I don't know how much of it. Obviously, that's more of an like a studio decision, most likely. Where we need something more, hopping. And I don't know how much of the changes you want to blame on Ridley Scott. But since he also has 5 versions of the goddamn Blade Runner, I'm going to put part of the blame on him not making up his mind.
Yeah, and
maybe have a plan going forward.
Well, the thing is, this is probably such a better cut years later. Because when did the Blu-ray director's cut come out? It was like about 7 years ago.
Yeah, within the last 10 years.
Something like that. Him being older and a more experienced filmmaker. I know you're rolling your eyes.
Guess.
I see you're doing that with your head.
I'm allowed.
Probably makes a better director's cut. It probably allows him to choose better music, better angles, better better cuts to the film.
But here's my question
as well.
How is that different than Lucas, like adding shit later to his film?
I think adding stuff and using what you did 30 years ago is a big difference.
But is it? Because
it is.
Again,
no,
like you're saying,
really...
he's a different person. He's a different person. Is how many years later? It's a different vision.
Lucas has
different skill set.
Has publicly shat all over his stuff by adding in brand new stuff where he uses the excuse, well, if I could do this 30 years ago, I would have done it, so I'm doing it now because I have the technology. Whereas Ridley Scott is, Yeah, give me the 6 hours of Legend that I have, and I'm gonna make the best cut that I can because I have a better eye for it now.
Now,
It's
obviously,
different. I'm
Lucas
telling
is
you.
an extreme example.
He is.
But here's my point. If you didn't make the best possible film you could have then,
It was there.
wasn't something.
But
hold on.
it was there though.
Hold on.
All right.
If you didn't have the best finished product then, and it wasn't an extreme situation like Brazil, where the studio was basically taking the film away from you because you wouldn't remove 10 minutes of it, and it's just you doing different things to it in different, and that you can't even get the same cut in the 3 different releases out there at the time, then how is it the pure version if you do it 20 years later and just reshuffle the footage? That's all I'm saying.
No, I know what you're saying. But
it's like if like, oh, you know what? If I'd done it now, I would have like done this differently. And stuff like restoring the soundtrack, that's something different. The studio tells you need to use Tangerine Dream. You got to use Tangerine fucking Dream. Europeans don't mind. You keep it there. I get that. But the director's cut doesn't even match the European cut. And so I'm saying the director's cut's a good cut.
yeah,
But I don't know if you can call it the original cut because it's not.
it isn't.
Because nothing he tried to do back then equals that cut.
I agreed. No, agreed.
To an extent.
Yeah.
That's all. I'm nitpicking, obviously. I'm
A little bit.
As like a film purist, it was like, great, it's a great version of the film, but I wouldn't say, oh, I went back and did what I wanted to do. No, you didn't. You did what you couldn't do. There's a little bit of difference.
It's filmed. It's there. He just did it now, or
Right.
whatever. How many years ago?
Here, it's not 100% equal, but here's an example. You don't have authors going back and rewriting their books.
Well, no.
Sometimes
that would be new content. Are you talking new content, or are you talking about pages that they've ripped out that they now want to put back?
Well, no. Well, they don't rip pages out.
Yeah,
but like, look at
what I
Stand
mean.
for it. The Stephen King's The Stand. He released the unedited version, or the version before his editors got to it and said, "Hey, you can't release a 2,000-page book," and they put all the shit back in. They restored it to the original draft before the editors had him take it apart. That's a rare exception. But you don't often see writers go back and say, "Hey, yeah, I was going to do this, but the editors told me I had to cut this down and this, but I want to do it differently." So I'm going to, with Stephen King aside, because he is, again, he's like the extreme example. You don't have authors doing it. They don't. It's not really as accepted as, well, the words were there. I just didn't use them the right way. And I just feel like
I don't know.
I'm just saying there's 2 kinds of director's cuts. There's the kind where they wouldn't release the film the way I wanted it. This is the way I wanted it. That's it. With Ridley Scott, with this, I get a different vibe of, if I knew what the fuck I was doing back then, maybe I would have stopped making 4 films at once and just did this. That's all I'm saying.
I don't
That's all
agree
I'm
with that
saying.
entirely, but I do agree to it to an extent. At this point,
That's all
Ridley
I
Scott
ask.
was already an experienced filmmaker. He might have not known exactly what he wanted when he was making this, and he just shot it from so many different angles, like he always does.
How experienced of a filmmaker was Ridley Scott when he made this film?
He was easily 15 years in to his filmmaking career at this point.
Was he? As a director?
Sure. What was his first film? 70?
I was looking at it earlier because I was curious myself about this. By the way, this jackhole has 47 films in development, supposedly, according to IMDb.
Jesus Christ.
So,
well,
yeah, again,
I mean, if he's a
let me
producer,
focus on one thing.
if he's a producer, I can see how that would be correct.
I don't.
He did some TV stuff in the 60s.
Right.
And then he made his first movie, The Duelist, in 1977.
Right. So we got The Duelists, Alien, Blade Runner, then Legend. That's 4 films. 2 of which he had to make 4 versions of each.
Yeah. So he had experience. He did have experience under his belt. You know, he had
Some
some
experience,
movie, some TV, and some movie.
but I mean, this is the beginning of his career, basically.
Yeah.
As much everybody loves just creaming over Blade Runner, which I'm not a huge fan of.
I like Blade Runner.
I know you do, but I mean, big budget films. That's all he's done, really.
Oh, and let me tell you something. Nowadays, he doesn't make a movie for less than like $100 million.
I know, and look what you get for it.
Yeah. I mean, every once in a while, he'll do a movie like Matchstick Men, which cost almost nothing.
Which is probably the last film he did I liked.
I like Matchstick Men.
That's what I'm saying. It's probably the last film.
No,
he did that
I like The Martian. I thought he did a really good job with The Martian.
You know, The Martian is like it's one of those films where you watch it like, yeah, this is entertaining. This is good. It's kind of good. And then what? Yeah.
What about the film The Counselor? I heard that was an underrated film. I haven't seen it yet. The McCarthy novel. Or no, it's not actually. He wrote that right for the screen, right?
Yeah, it's a Cormac McCarthy, and I've heard a lot of things about it being brilliant and being passed up everybody because no one understands it. And if that's true, it's all on the writer. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
Because I can't think of No, The Martian. I mean, we reviewed The Martian for the Oscars, and I wasn't harsh on it, but it's a fluff film. It really is.
Yeah.
The pseudoscience has been torn apart by every geek with a YouTube account, and you know it's beautifully shot. You know, you put enough money into it and you get enough talent behind it. That's great, but there's nothing exceptional to it. I mean, that basic concept of we have to get him back. You know, we saw that Apollo 13. You know,
now. Real quick, two things. One is
take your time.
Movie related. The other is later related.
Let's do movie related.
No. Are we going to announce the horror films that we're going to talk about next week?
I thought we'd be a surprise
For next week?
Yeah.
Are we going to tell each other, or are we just going to come to the table with them for next week's episode?
I thought we'd just come to the table with them because we have a lot in common with that stuff.
Now,
and I figured
these are films. These are films that because I have two movies that two movies that I've never seen, and one that I've seen that it reminded me of Legend. Even though I know we're not doing that, but it is a horror film.
I think between the two of us, if we bring two films each, we'll at least have one film the other has seen we can talk about together, and then we can. I don't mind talking about a film that I haven't seen that you have, and vice versa.
Cool.
I think that's
all right. So then
good.
we'll wait till next week then.
Yes, it's gonna be a surprise.
Good.
Week one of Horror Fest Thon. I haven't come up with a name.
You know what's funny? Somebody, we've been getting a lot of video comments.
Have we?
Not all bad either.
Oh, you mean comments on our YouTube?
On our YouTube videos, the ones
I mean like people video themselves say, "You guys suck."
we do get that sometimes, and usually it's, "Would you please shut up and so we can hear the movie?" It's like, wow, you're
no
fucking dumb.
Oh, fuck you,
Trump supporter. Anyway, we got one recently. Someone just posted, and they just posted MST 3000, and I was like, I made that web page, or that YouTube page that you made me change. That was MST 3000. I just thought that was kind of cool and neato.
Yeah.
You made me change it because you're like, oh, the lawsuits are going to rain down upon us, and I'm like, they're
it's not fair. I don't want to, Well, it's a coincidence that our initials are MST. Pure coincidence.
It really is. I mean, when we thought up the name of the show, we didn't think that. But when I was coming up with YouTube channels, I'm like, ooh, maybe if it was MST 3000. We would get a lot more people coming and viewing, and you're like, no, we can't do that.
And they'd hate us.
Why don't you guys shut up so we can hear the video? It's like, that again. All right, we need to talk about Tim Curry.
What about?
How good he is in this.
Oh, yeah, well, it's Tim Curry.
I mean, like Frank Langella, in Masters of the Universe, which we reviewed last week.
Mm-hmm.
Tim Curry, like Frank Langella, is brilliant in this film. And Rob Bottin, who was the lead makeup designer for this movie.
He's one of the old pros. Yeah.
Oh man, I mean, if you haven't, if you're a new listener or you're a new viewer of anything horror and sci-fi,
you just crawled out under a fucking rock.
well, we could have someone listening that's maybe 15 years old that's never heard of this shit. You have to understand, we are older. Exactly. Oh, and Mr. Wilson just had a birthday. Happy birthday, good sir.
Yeah. Thank you.
But like The Thing, this film, Rob Bottin is a makeup genius. He is always undervalued and always underlooked at because Rick Baker, also talented, Hollywood's, they love him. So
yeah.
Rob Bottin was looked over a lot in his career because of Rick Baker.
Yeah, Bottin is just as, if not equally, if not more so, talented. He's comparable to Baker, easily comparable to Baker.
Well, this movie is a perfect example of that. I mean,
yeah.
the Meg, the swamp princess, or whatever you want to call her, that scene alone.
Now
they should have been just throwing Oscars at him.
Now that's when they're in the swamp and this big witch comes out.
The swamp witch. That's
right.
Yes.
Now here's one of the big examples of how they fucked up the film in the American version.
Yeah, that scene was cut so short.
But specifically, you just say it's cut short. It was cut short.
Dialogue is bad too.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It was cut short so that in the American version, because the whole thing with the American version is they made Jack the hero instead of the reluctant hero or the newbie.
Right.
So they cut things specific way, and there's different dialogue. So so instead of him saying we have to save the world, we have to go find Lily, and then it's his voice that says we have to go to the castle or wherever to get them. It's him directing and not Gump. He's not following these people; he's leading them in the American version, and it's a perfect example. If you watch the director's cut, then you watch the theatrical release. In the theatrical release, they cut it. So they lose all the parts where he's fumbling for the sword and dropping it in the water and unsure of himself, and he's trying to and it's like it's a longer scene because it's building up this whole idea of I don't know if I can do this, and it ruins it too because what they leave in there is after he cuts her head off, he says I did it, and you're like, of course you did. Why was it? Because we lost all that part of him not being sure that he could do it. So not only does it remove that feeling of the moment, it confuses the audience because you have no idea why the hell you'd be so surprised because you weren't surprised because you haven't seen the full scene.
Yeah, that's true. Because and let me tell you something. Anyone, my nephew's ex-girlfriend was getting into makeup artistry, and she was going to school for that. And she said, "Show me anything cool." And it could anything from the 80s because she's a huge fan of makeup from the 80s. I showed her that scene, and it was like, this is all you need to know. I showed her The Thing. I showed her that. I showed her a couple other films, but that scene from Legend with the Swamp Witch, that is like, if you're interested in this shit, this right here is where you need to be. And she was mesmerized by it. It was awesome. But and I showed her the director's cut because it's the longer cut. It's such a great scene too. It's so sad that in the theatrical it's cut so short and the dialogue is cut in a certain way and it's just not very good. I think the first time that I watched the extended scene of that was at your house or your apartment. Back when you lived when you lived over near Lawrence Harbor. Or Cliffwood
wherever
Lake,
that is.
Wherever that is. But I'm pretty sure that's the first time I ever saw the extended scene. It was like a Laserdisc rip, I think you had of it.
It could have been that, or was that before the director's 2-disc set came out?
That was before the director's cut. We were able to get our hands, or you were, on the extended cut of the film or the European cut, and I had seen the movie 100 times, but I had never seen the extended version of that scene. So I'm almost positive I watched it at your apartment.
That was back before DVDs were a main big thing, and you still had people trading videotapes online. Yeah, that's where I would get that stuff, or conventions occasionally.
Yep.
Yeah, the good old days.
The good old days, man. The cool stuff you could trade for at conventions and
the scary stuff you could trade for.
I was at the Jacob Javits Center not that long ago. It looks different. It feels different. But anyway, Tim Curry. Rob Bottin did such an amazing job on Tim Curry. Because you know how sometimes, like, say Ron Perlman from Beauty and the Beast, the TV show. You could tell Ron Perlman's under that. Because he's got that kind of, like kind of monkeyish, roundish face like that. You could just, you could tell. But Rob Bottin did such an amazing job with Tim Curry. There is not one facial feature that he makes where you're like, oh, that's Tim Curry. It's that good. It's that fucking good. You don't, even Tim Curry's voice, which they synthesized, you could tell that it's Tim Curry's voice a little bit. But there's certain inflections he has. Like when he talks to Lily, he says, I want you to talk to me, or I want to talk to you. You could say that's fucking Rocky Horror right there. That's Rocky Horror right there. Things like that.
And I think the director's cut has the far better sequence at the table. Like, sit down. I'd rather stand. It's like, sit or stand. Like, play it cool. Play it cool, darkness. Play it cool.
Yeah, because Bixie's telling her, he's like, you need to woo her, because he's just a man of action. He's just like, you're going to bend over wherever I tell you to, and that's what's going down. That's what he's used to.
Oh, it's funny. So I start watching it. I actually got Holly to watch part of the film with me. She refused the first couple of times.
Really?
Yeah.
Refused?
Well, here's the best part. Like, we're watching it. It's not even like 5 minutes into the film. It's like, yeah. So and then it like doesn't like. He gets with that other guy who was a dwarf. It's like, no, he's not a dwarf.
It's an elf.
Yeah, he's an elf. So no, he's a dwarf. He's did interviews and stuff. No, it's a dwarf. It's not a dwarf. It's an elf. He's not. No, it's a little kid. Said no, it's a dwarf. Like, I'm telling you, it's not. Maybe another 5 minutes later, say, isn't there a baby involved in this? It's like, oh, you're thinking of Willow. It's like, oh yeah, that's right, Willow. This isn't that.
Shit.
No,
that's Lucas's pile of crap that Ron Howard directed.
And then I don't know if she's fucking with me or not, because then like a few minutes later she says, when does David Bowie show up? So now I know you're fucking with me. I know you know that's Labyrinth. It's like, oh, Labyrinth? Is that the one? So I don't know.
Oh my god. That's funny. Should have those papers ready to go at any moment.
And if she hadn't been sitting there, I wouldn't have realized that this film was made before Tom Cruise had his teeth fixed. Thank you, Holly.
Yeah, they. What's interesting about that is they've had pictures of Tom Cruise even later years, like where they show that the two front teeth, they're pushed over so much that the one tooth is like lined up with the middle of his nose.
He has one tooth in the center. Yeah.
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 That's fucking crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And even now,
you get a good look at his teeth in Legend, and you can see why they had to move shit around.
They really had to move shit. He was like adult braces and everything.
Sure.
It was one of those times where it's like I see someone with adult braces, and I'm like, do you really need those? It's like, no, this guy, he needed them, big time. If you actually look at Tom Cruise in The Outsiders, there's a part in that film where he like smiles very quickly. His teeth are really fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
Really fucked up. Yeah, so he's had some work done when he did this, and he had to have some shifting done later. There's pictures of him where it shows like a graph, like on his face, like show where everything lines up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nuts. Probably the biggest movie star in history. He's got a tooth in the middle.
You know what's nuts?
What's nuts?
Is that the witch Meg Mucklebones
Mucklebones.
that he did beheads? That's the guy from like Deep Space Nine.
Oh, that guy. We talked about him. Wasn't he also in
No,
Rotor? Is it that guy?
in what?
Rotor? Like he was the
Rotor.
one guy from Rotor that has done like so many different appearances in like mostly sci-fi and special effects, but he's like got like 200 movies under his belt. Is it that guy?
I don't think that's the same guy. What year was Rotor again?
87.
No, different person we're talking about.
Let me see who you're talking about then.
This guy is Robert Picardo. You'll recognize him when you see him.
Here we go. Meg Mucklebones.
Yeah, he was like the
Oh, that guy.
yeah, he was like was he a hologram or something like that, or a robot? He was like a he slept in a bucket. I remember he slept in a bucket. I didn't watch the show. I was around people that watched it, and that's even worse.
Yeah.
So I know I'm almost positive he slept in a bucket. That's all I know about the character.
What's that one movie that I know him from where he was just like a caricature of himself or something? The fuck was it? I have to take a look at his resume.
Good luck.
He was in The
Been in
Burbs.
everything.
He was Joe, the garbage man, number 2. That's who I remember him from that.
In
Where
what?
He was one of the garbage men where
In what?
in The Burbs.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear that part.
I did say it.
I didn't hear. I didn't say you didn't say it.
Where
I
Bruce
said I didn't
where
hear
Bruce
it.
Dern goes out, he's got a half face full of shaving cream, and they're like in the garbage truck, and he's throwing it out, and what's his face Miller, he's like, who's gonna pick up all this garbage? and Bruce Dern tells him, he says, well, you are, because you're the garbage man. And then the guy next to him who starts reciting some like law, he's like, yeah, according to blah blah blah, he's correct. Once it hits the curb, it's public property. That's him. He was also in Loverboy. That's who it is. He was in Loverboy.
Oh,
He was
that's right,
Dr.
he was
Reed
one of the
Palmer.
husbands.
He was the doctor,
Yeah.
Reed Palmer.
Yeah.
That's-
He was one of the husbands. I love you.
And he was the voice of Johnny Cab in Total Recall.
Oh,
He was in Gremlins 2. Oh, man. Yeah, he's been in, like, everything.
I remember from Gremlins too. Yeah. But anyway, I just think it's weird that that's him as the witch. So that's kind of
That
cool.
is weird that, yeah, I couldn't even
Yeah.
fucking tell.
I mean, but I'm telling you now. Bear with me on this. I have a
okay.
theory,
Oh, boy.
and it's not good for James Cameron.
Well, that's good because James Cameron didn't direct this.
You know what I mean? Ridley Scott.
You
the other
did
guy.
this when you wrote
Yeah.
your review for
Well, because
Avatar. You
one
said
guy did
Ridley
Alien,
Scott.
and the other guy did Aliens, and they both make overblown sci-fi bullshit now. So it gets a little confusing.
It
okay?
really doesn't. And
All right,
that is
stop.
the only qualm. Well, not the only qualm. I shouldn't even say. I don't have a qualm.
That's the excuse they used.
No.
to-
What I'm
to
saying is
insult.
when you wrote the article about Avatar sucking and you said Ridley Scott and they all jumped down your throat.
I didn't even say it sucked in that one. I was being nice in that review.
Yeah.
That was before all these fucking ass.
Well, you got to remember, all these Trump supporters are just looking for any little thing.
Anyway.
And if you get the director wrong, your point
All right.
becomes invalid, even though that's not the case.
if I may regroup,
Yes, please.
from what I've read, the whole idea is that Ridley Scott said he wanted to make a fantasy, but he wanted to do one original. He didn't want to. He didn't want to base it off of something else because it's harder to fit the vision, the form, blah blah blah. Probably just couldn't find anything that he wanted, so he had to write something new. Find somebody who was actually working on a screenplay. They get together, and by the time he finishes Blade Runner, like they're already got the project in mind.
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I just from the several scenes in this film that I can point out to you, I'm convinced he made this film because of Time Bandits. No other reason. I'm dead serious. Time Bandits came out what, 81? When did Blade Runner? When did Blade Runner wrap? Like
82.
81.
Well, Blade Runner came
82?
out in 82, so it was probably done filming in 81. Yeah.
And Time Bandits came out in 81.
Yes.
Yeah, so the time's perfect there. And you tell me there's not similarities between this and Time Bandits. The shooting of the power with the unicorn horn, as opposed to the dark guy in the castle. Oh, darkness in a castle, shooting things with his hand. The little midgets. He's got fucking dwarves in his film too. It's too coincidental. The whole journey thing. It's basically Time Bandits without the time travel. And
That's not a bad theory.
I don't think so at all. I'm serious about it. I mean, Time Bandits really shook things up. I mean, that was a very popular film at the time. And
Sure.
Terry Gilliam on a shoestring budget. Then you got Mr. Blade Runner here. It's like, what's he going to do after a sci-fi film? I might as well do fantasy. and what else does he have to go off of by that? In the same course, I think Willow was the studio slowly trying to do what they thought Legend should have been, and failing miserably at that.
Yeah, that came out in 88, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, tell me, because did Legend do well? I don't.
Well, according to the numbers, I
knew you had it.
One of my all-time favorite websites. I always mention that. For the year 1986, it came out April 18th, 1986. According to the numbers, it had a budget of $25 million, making it one of the most expensive films that year.
No shit. I mean, as far as Ridley Scott goes.
Well, yeah, Ridley Scott is always he's always given a lot of money. And now that
Yeah.
The Martian made like 400 or 500 million worldwide, that's not going to stop anytime soon.
Wonderful.
So it cost 25 million, but only made 15 domestically. Now, it doesn't say anything about international numbers. I can't find that anywhere.
So it didn't do well.
It did not do well.
All right. Time Bandits did well.
I'll pull that up. I'm
Pretty sure, because that was a low-budget film, and that was the big talk when it came out. At least as a kid, I remember it being big. It may not serve reality any better.
Time Bandits, 42 million it made. But you know what? You know what IMDb should do? It should just steal info from the numbers. Seriously. I mean, I'm serious, because it doesn't have anything for the budget. But I guarantee you that let's go to 1981. And I guarantee you the numbers is going to have the budget of Time Bandits, which it came out November of 1981. All right, let's do this. November 1981, Time Bandits. Oh, it must have came out at a different time in the U.S. That's the other thing that the numbers does. If the film came out even though it says 1981, that's what IMDb says. Let's see. Time Bandits. That came out in the US November 1981. Well, how come it's not listed here?
Ha! Well,
because I'm still in 1982. Christ. Come on.
it was not a huge budget.
12,
No one's
12,
ever handed
12
Terry
million.
Gilliam.
12 million.
Oh, I'm seeing 5 million.
Well, the number says 12, and I'm wondering if that includes prints and advertising.
That'd be a lot of prints and advertising.
For 1981, yeah.
According to Wikipedia, the budget was 5 million.
And according
box
to
office
according to the
42.
numbers, it says 12.
Yeah, screw them.
What?
Either way, 5 or 12, it was a huge hit.
Yes.
Now, tell me this, off the top of your head.
Mm-hmm.
Time Bandits counts as a fantasy film. We're agreed, right? It's not sci-fi.
Correct.
Even though there's time travel involved, it's essentially a fantasy film.
Absolutely fantasy.
All right. Tell me another mainstream fantasy film post Time Bandits. So we're not going back to like Ray Harryhausen stuff. Tell me a post Time Bandits fantasy film that did well.
How far ahead do we go?
As far as you want. Give me one.
Well,
Fantasy.
I would consider Lord of the Rings to be fantasy.
Well, all right, there you go. So, Lord of the Rings. Anything before that? I mean, barring kids' films, because I don't think either of those were really kids' films. Legend definitely was not a kids' film.
No, I wouldn't show my
Time
kids.
Bandits.
I wouldn't show my
Time
kids
Bandits is
this.
popular with kids, but I wouldn't call Time Bandits a kids' film at all.
No, I wouldn't show my kids Time Bandits either. I think there's
No.
I think I could show them a lot of that movie, but I think there are definitely scenes that I'd regret because they would keep me awake because they'd be coming into my room telling me they're scared.
Now, was Hook a success? Because maybe Hook would count. I don't think Hook did well, though, did it?
Hook, it made $100 million. I know this off the top of my head. Don't ask me why. Hook made $100 million domestically. I don't know what it did in the foreign market.
What was the budget?
The budget, if I remember correctly, was about the same. I want to say it broke even domestically.
Maybe now Jumanji, that might count because I think that did very well.
Jumanji did okay.
Yeah, but again, that was kind of geared as a kids film.
$70 million. $70 million for Hook. Made $119 million domestically. It made $181 million foreign, so it made $300 million worldwide.
Right. But what I'm getting at is, I feel like it's like, okay, Time Bandits did well, fantasy. I'm doing a fantasy film now, and I do it like this with midgets and shooting things, and goodness and evil, and so of course he fucked that up. But I mean, how I don't think it's a strong market in this country.
It's really not. It's gotten a little stronger since Lord of the Rings, but it's actually starting to go down again.
Yeah, well, because honestly, even as when I was still a Peter Jackson fan during the Lord of the Rings, even by the third one, I was like, yeah, okay, I'll see it in the theater, but I can't even tell. I can't even remember the whole third one. I was just like numb at that point. I'm like, oh, all right, more CGI.
It's the one with the
there's a ghost army.
The three endings.
Yeah, now there's a ghost ending, a ghost army. What the fuck's up with that?
Yeah.
That's like cheating. Isn't that like cheating? It's a ghost army. Yeah, we can't hit them. Oh, well, I guess we lost. Yeah. And then like they're throwing giant boulders.
It's all in the book, so I can't fault them for just following the book.
I can. But you know what I'm saying? Like even by the end of that, even I was like tapped out. It's like, oh, I think even Tolkien fans were like, yeah, no, we were good with the first two. We're fine. So that's why when he does the Hobbit ones, then it's like, oh, who gives a shit? But like now, now you can't make that. It's like, well, did it do well? Because they always do well because again, it's built in. They spend $200 million on a movie. No matter what happens, they're going to get their investment back from everything else. And like you can look at your foreign, domestic, add it all together. It's like, hey, look, we made money.
Right.
You know, so I don't know how well the Hobbit films did because theater doesn't matter anymore.
One of my favorite things to look at is the movies that come out in January. There's some doozies in January of '86, the year that Legend came out.
Oh, which ones?
Movies like the animated film GoBots, War of the Worlds, or like what I like to call the Transformers ripoff cartoon.
Yeah.
The GoBots were the toy and the cartoon that when it came on and you got that toy, you were disappointed because it wasn't Transformers.
Yeah.
Fucking GoBots. Out of Bounds
Mom and Dad swung by the dollar store this Christmas.
Yeah. Out of Bounds with Anthony Michael Hall.
Ooh, yeah, that was his big shot.
Let's Get Harry.
Let's Get Harry.
That's the one with Mark Harmon. That's the one that has an Alan Smithy attachment. The director said the movie was taken away from him, so he did an Alan Smithy on it. It was a Cinemax special because...
Oh, yeah, you almost challenged me to that once.
I did almost challenge it one time.
Yeah. Okay. I know what you're talking about now.
Black Moon Rising.
Ah.
Clan...
That's the car, right?
That's the one with the Tommy Lee Jones and what's her face from Terminator, Linda Hamilton.
That was like his Blue Thunder.
Yep. Yeah. Clan of the Cave Bear. Iron Eagle. That's the one with what's her face? Daryl Hannah.
Yeah. You know, Holly's read all that entire series of books. There's like 5 in the series.
What?
Yeah, yeah. Apparently, this woman had like invented civilization. She was telling me about it. She was going through it. It's like, yeah, in this one she invented irrigation and flamethrowers, and it's like just down the list. She's just like this superwoman. That everything she touches, she's like Morgan Freeman in Robin Hood. Morgan Freeman, right? Did I fuck that up?
No, you're yeah, the one with Kevin Costner.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's Morgan Freeman.
Or he keeps showing us like, yeah, here's what we invented. It's like, what the hell is this?
Yeah. Oh, look, a telescope. What? The fuck did that come from?
She's the prehistoric version of him.
Yeah, he just pulls out a crystal ball and then wraps it in something, and now he can see far away.
She invents like horseback riding. It's like ridiculous.
How do you know this animal will let you sit on it? Well, you don't know until you try. Iron Eagle, Troll.
Iron Eagle was a January release.
Yes, it was.
Wow.
Made 24 million though.
That was the big hit. There's always one hit in January.
That was the big hit.
Yeah, there's always one that they threw in there that they beats the odds. It's like, yeah, no, we're actually a good film.
And this is
just like Taken.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Although Down and Out in Beverly Hills, the film with Richard Dreyfuss and Nick Nolte,
Yes.
62 million, came out January 31st.
That Edge, yeah.
But the thing is, even though that's an Edge, back then, if it came out in January, it was considered shit. That's just how Hollywood perceived January. It's a little different now, but not a lot different, but it is a little different now.
I'm still convinced that film made as much money as it did because people just didn't understand what they were going to see.
Yeah, probably.
But no, I mean, if you watch the trailer to that, like now,
and
then you watch the film, you're like, I was not expecting that.
Mm-hmm. So Legend was.
I think the first time I had that experience as a kid is I remember seeing the trailers for Stoker Ace. And then we watched Stoker Ace, and it was like, this is not the movie I was told.
Yeah.
No, this is not the Stoker Ace I expected to see.
Clan of the Cave Bear cost 15 million. 9.5 Weeks cost 18 million. Legend cost 25 million. So far, that's the most expensive film going into April. Oh God, Legal Eagles cost $40 million to make.
You're shitting me.
How the fuck does that movie cost that much in 1986?
How much did they pay Robert Redford?
You could make that movie for a fucking $5 today.
Robert Redford and those CGI rats.
Yeah.
Add that together, and that's like 20 million right there.
Big Trouble in Little China, 25 million. Holy shit! The movie Pirates. The movie Pirates, Walter Matthau Pirates, $40 million.
Well, because he got boats.
It made 1.6 million. Poor Polanski. Howard the Duck.
No. Fuck Polanski.
I'm joking.
What are you talking about?
I'm joking. I really meant that. Come on. Howard the Duck cost $30 million.
Oh.
Shanghai Surprise, 17 million. Playing for Keeps. The romantic comedy Playing for Keeps. Shanghai Surprise.
Oh, is that? I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, was Mel Gibson in that? No, I'm thinking somebody else.
Oh, Madonna. Yeah, it was Madonna and Sean Penn. It's like an Indiana Jones era type film.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, I just looked it up. I knew I recognized the name. It's like an Indiana Jones type thing.
It's HAI. Okay. Let's see. Shanghai Surprise, 1986. I think you're right. Yes. God.
Told you.
I own this movie. I'd like to say my parents own this movie.
And what's the other one that you just said after that?
Romantic comedy. The movie Playing for Keeps, $40 million. $35 million. Sorry. How is that movie?
Actors.
How does that movie cost $35 million?
You know what? It's because they have an A-list actor and they're paying him like $10 million to star in it. Because if they don't have the A-list actor, no one sees the film. That's how it goes. You know, they end up paying so
Yeah,
much.
but Star Trek 4, $24 million. So everyone took a cut on that.
There's a pay. Maybe.
Little Shop of Horrors, $30 million.
Sometimes people do take cuts.
Maybe they were getting paid on the back end because they knew that was going to make a few $100 million worldwide. Some
I don't
actors...
even recognize Playing for Keeps.
Oh, really?
I
Is
recognize
that,
the name.
Is that
and
Rob
that's it.
Lowe?
What?
Is that Rob Lowe?
No.
God, they remade that movie. Either that or the movie with Gerard Butler has just the same name.
I think it's just the same name. I can't see this being
Fuck.
You know you're in trouble when you check out the Wikipedia for a movie, and on the right, instead of a movie poster, it shows the soundtrack. So, oh, one of those.
Is that Marissa Tomei? Oh my God, the directors are Bob and Harvey Weinstein.
And that is Marissa Tomei. Tomei, yes.
Oh my God. Tracy.
Jimmy Bio. Is Jimmy Bio related to Scott Bio? Yes, he is.
Baio.
He's the cousin of Scott Bio.
Baio.
Yeah, he doesn't deserve his name pronounced correctly.
Oh my God. So Marissa Tomei was only 22 years old when she did that. Jesus Christ, that makes Marissa Tomei
Anyway,
52
my
years old.
My point is Legend is a ripoff of Time Bandits. That's all I'm saying.
That's not a bad assumption. Matthew Penn.
I mean,
oh God,
even down to
it's
like
another
the
Penn brother.
odd shaped helmet that the one dwarf is wearing, and like the whole kitchen scene, which is probably the most gruesome scene of the film because he's hacking a live human on the table. That whole set screams Terry Gilliam.
Yeah.
It really does. I mean, if it was a bit more surreal. That's it. But I mean, I don't give Ridley Scott enough credit. That's like, oh yeah, I just wanted to do a fantasy. Yeah, because you were so deep into fantasy before that and after that. I mean, after Legend and Blade Runner, like almost everything else he did involves like military or something of that nature. He's just an action director.
Pretty much.
And every now and then he tries to do Prometheus. Everybody's like, "What the fuck was that?"
Oh my God. Livestream is telling me that the app is going well over 80% CPU usage.
We should wrap up.
Why would Livestream do that to me? Why does
I don't
Livestream hate me so much?
So we have Legend at 6.5 on IMDb. What would you like to give Legend?
Well, I would imagine we'd give the director's cut and the theatrical different scores.
We don't have that option, so we'll have to combine them.
I am very partial to the movie. I think I could go 7 on this, but I could be talked into a 6. Just telling you now.
The fact that he can't get his fucking shit together to make one movie instead of 3, I think he deserves a 6.
Well, and I would say the fact that the director's cut is so superior to the theatrical, and because it's footage that he's already filmed, and it's not anything he did new, 7.
I'll go with that, but you have to hear me out on one thing.
Okay.
At the end of the American version,
Yeah.
when they have, like, instead of it just being, hey, we saved the world, let's go away, we have to show them running in, like, the fields again. If you look carefully, you can tell that this was a last-minute change because, you know the one shot where Tom Cruise kisses her and then lays her down in the field?
Yeah.
It's shot in reverse.
Oh, I never noticed that.
If you watch her hand, it doesn't look like it, but if you watch her one hand on like his arm, the way it moves, like, yeah, it's reverse.
That's a good catch.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, they had to piece this shit together.
And that's why the director's cut is so superior, because he had so much extra footage.
I'll give you a 7, just because it's it's not Prometheus.
Oh boy, you're cutting up bad. We need to end this shit. So
7. I gave you 7.
okay, great. All right, let's go ahead and end the show before my computer crashes, because live stream can suck a dick. So obviously, that has not fixed it, even though I installed the latest driver for the webcam, which live stream keeps crashing the computer with. So I
blame you.
So I think next week, if I have the time, because we had so many sound issues tonight to start the show, I'm going to use Ustream. It's been a year. I imagine that there's even a better version of Ustream than the one that I was testing last year. So
Possible.
All right.
All right.
No, that's not the one. That's the one. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Episode 221 of Moviesucktastic, where we reviewed Legend, the Ridley Scott director's cut. You can go to our website at moviesucktastic.com. You can download all the shows there, or you can listen to the shows there as well. If you want, we highly recommend you tune in every Thursday at 8 o'clock and watch the show live with us. Because that's pretty much the only way you get to see the motherfucking video, because YouTube, they're a bunch of cunts. You can go to iTunes and you can download the show there, or you can listen to it as well. If you do go there, make sure you leave us a review. We always appreciate it. You can go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/Moviesucktastic. Just about everything that we do gets posted there. Everything from trailers to film theories to whatever, which I did watch those 2 film theories you recommended. Brilliant. The Blair Witch and The Matrix. They were really good. Highly recommend you go out and watch those. You want to leave us voicemail, you can at 908-514-4470. If you want to leave us email, the address is themovieguys@moviesucktastic.com. If you want, you can also download the free app for your phone or your tablet or whatever you're using Android-wise for Moviesucktastic. It's 100% free, and everything I said is in there. You can also do a you can do a browser. No, sorry. Again, you can do a search engine search for Moviesucktastic. Holy shit, I'm tired. Scott likes Google.
Google it.
Yeah. And you can find us that way. So that's it. That's it. That does it. Do you have any words of wisdom, Mr. Wilson?
We're all animals, milady.
I was hoping you were going to go with, "You don't know me by now, boy." I like that one.
Oh, Mother Night, hold your dark arms about me.
All right, everybody. We'll talk to you next week when we do our Halloween Horror Fest kicks off. It's going to be nice.
Scary Sucktastic.
That's right. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. Don't you yawn.
Oh, sorry.